In recent years, interest in and worry about China's influence in Africa has grown. China first became involved in Africa in the 1960s and 1970s as a means of fostering ideological unity with developing countries and fending against Western influence. Through military, financial, and political support, China's influence in Africa is expanding rapidly. For the US and other nations with regional interests, this has significant implications. China is involved in Africa in several ways, including trade, investment, infrastructure development, and diplomatic ties. Major infrastructure projects in Africa include the construction of roads, stadiums, hospitals, schools, and other facilities by Chinese enterprises. China is now Africa's third largest trading partner, with substantial trade volumes between the two. However, there is a $1.7 billion railway project that could challenge China's influence in Africa. Welcome back to the New Tourist channel, where we discuss everything that is going on in Africa, from politics to projects in the continent. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel so you get notified when we upload new videos. In today's video, we are going to be talking about a major project in Angola that could challenge China's influence in Africa. We will also be seeing the key countries involved in this project and how it affects China. Make sure you watch the video till the end to get a full understanding. The US and China are engaged in a high-stakes race for economic dominance in Africa, with this railway at its center. The Benguela Railway, which is a section of the Libya-Atlantic Railway, links the Democratic Republic of Congo's heartland of the Copperbelt with Angola. The line plays a vital role in the global transportation of minerals, which are needed for things like electric vehicle batteries and other green technology. China has been driving the infrastructure development of Africa for many years, investing hundreds of billions of dollars in projects such as roads, ports, and railroads. However, a successful US-backed effort to reopen the rail route may alter the balance of power throughout the continent. The Benguela Railway isn't new. It was constructed in 1902 and has long been vital to Angola's trade, but the civil war there seriously devastated it. On the rail line, there are some destroyed armored cars that are visible. There are also rail cars that have been allowed to rust. China intervened to assist Angola in rebuilding its infrastructure after the conflict. So, to repair the railway line, Angola signed a $2 billion agreement with a consortium of Chinese companies in 2006. However, shoddy building and maintenance practices resulted in dilapidated stations, broken safety systems, unavailable servers, and a high frequency of train derailments. The entire rail line needs to be rebuilt because so many different pieces of modern equipment have broken down. However, this time, Angola rejected a Chinese government offer to maintain and restore the same dilapidated railway. Rather, it gave a 30-year contract to many European corporations, which the US government will probably fund with a $250 million loan. Over 1,500 carriages will be added. Train operators will receive education. The $1.7 billion project will rehabilitate the rail tracks and terminals. It will also provide countries interested in the project with easier access to vital raw minerals like nickel and cobalt, which are eager to boost their clean energy programs. The primary focus of current African policy in Washington is supply security and vital and strategic minerals. Due to the anticipated 20-fold increase in demand for these components between 2020 and 2040, interest in the Libya corridor and the Democratic Republic of the Congo has grown. The project is anticipated to be a major source of employment opportunities for the youthful population of Angola. Thus, let's hope that they will both feed the rest of the world and provide Angola with employment and opportunity. Historically, it has been observed that the creation of corridors draws people, particularly when there are greater employment opportunities. A significant contributor to the recent infrastructure development in Africa has been China's Belt and Road Initiative. It was launched in 2013 by Chinese President Xi Jinping to increase China's economic might globally through trade, investment, and infrastructure agreements. From 2000 to 2023, China lent African nations more than $160 billion, with Angola receiving the most of these loans. In Angola, the Chinese have built cities, suburbs, highways, and football stadiums. However, the project has drawn criticism from all around the world for its poor construction, detrimental effects on the environment, and long-term viability of the economy. Additionally, it has left several nations heavily indebted. Bear with us that those are really difficult loans to repay. The Chinese government responded in a statement that the debt in Africa was not the fault of the Belt and Road Initiative. China's economy has changed recently, and there has been a sharp decline in investments in Africa. In 2022, lending fell below $1 billion, a level not seen in almost 20 years. China has been examining its debt exposure in Africa and hasn't received the kind of returns it had anticipated. Its investment portfolio reflects this greater aversion to risk. The U.S. has the chance to intervene thanks to this statute, but it's not merely interested in doing so. The U.S. wants to guarantee essential resources for upcoming technological breakthroughs. Particularly copper will be essential as the nation moves away from traditional energy sources. A priority for the Biden administration is strengthening business ties with Africa. The U.S. government committed to investing $55 billion in Africa and unveiled a framework for a contemporary U.S.-African relationship in 2022. In 2023, nearly 550 new trade and investment agreements were signed, representing a 67% increase over 2022 in terms of number and value. Historically, the United States has lagged behind other countries in conducting commerce in Africa. It appears that the Biden administration is working to rectify this situation. Note that the U.S. is cautious of the advancements made by other nations in the area. The Biden administration has really made an effort to let African nations know that it recognizes their long-standing ties to both Russia and China. Take note that the U.S. promises don't end with the Lobito Corridor project. The U.S. is sponsoring solar energy projects and other infrastructure projects in Angola, but its investments in the region pale in comparison to what the Chinese government has done over the past 20 years. The Biden administration has made an effort to let African nations know that it recognizes their long-standing ties to both Russia and China. However, bear in mind that the U.S. promises don't end with the Lobito Corridor project. The U.S. is sponsoring solar energy projects and other infrastructure projects in Angola, but its investments in the region pale in comparison to what the Chinese government has done over the past 20 years. You can be forgiven for not knowing that Angola is an impoverished country of 32 million people, where more than 60% of the population doesn't have access to electricity. 5 years ahead of schedule, Angola wants to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions to 14% by 2025, with an additional 10% contingent on support. It also aims to provide 60% of the population with access to electricity through its National Renewable Energy Program. 70% of installed capacity is anticipated to come from renewable sources. The Export-Import Bank of the United States announced last year that it had approved a direct loan of more than $900 million to the Ministry of Energy and Water of Angola to support the construction of 2 photovoltaic solar energy power plants in the country. The 2 solar power plants will generate over 500 megawatts of renewable energy and help diversify Angola's energy mix. Additionally, U.S. solar panel mounting systems, connectors, switches, sensors, and other equipment will be used on the projects as part of the loan conditions. The transaction is estimated to support 1,600 jobs. The project was initially announced in 2022 during the G7 summit by the government of Angola, U.S. firm Africa Global Schaffer, and U.S. project developer Sun Africa. According to the bank, their support of the project advances U.S. President Biden's flagship partnership for global infrastructure and investment, which aims to advance digital and energy infrastructure worldwide. Though it's still not nearly as good as what the Chinese have accomplished throughout Africa, it's a start, and we believe that African nations are beginning to realize that. The Lobito Railway project, nevertheless, may still be advantageous to the Chinese. It is also a fact that mineral exports to China via the Lobito Corridor will not be prohibited. It's not a railroad monopoly for the EU and the US. It's for free trade. This corridor might just be the start of more US investment in Africa. The ultimate plan calls for trains to run from the Atlantic to the Indian Ocean. The US is contributing to the cost of the study to see if this is possible, and who knows, maybe it may even fund the project in the future. It is also important to note that China's engagement in Africa has resulted in both advantages and disadvantages. On the one side, Chinese investments have aided in closing the infrastructure gap in Africa, increasing commerce, connectivity, and economic expansion. For many Africans, this has resulted in higher living conditions and job prospects. Furthermore, China's investments in fields like agriculture, healthcare, and education have improved the socioeconomic climate of the continent generally and aided in the growth of regional industries. Nonetheless, it's critical to recognize the drawbacks of China's influence. Due to unsustainable borrowing from China, several African nations have become deeply indebted, raising questions about their economic sovereignty. Concerns exist regarding Chinese projects in Africa in relation to labor practices and environmental effects. Some of these initiatives' lack of accountability and transparency has sparked concerns about their long-term viability and fair benefit distribution. This is why the $1.7 billion railway project has the potential to significantly challenge China's influence in Africa. With its strategic location and extensive reach, the railway offers a viable alternative to China's dominance in infrastructure development on the continent. The railway improves intra-African trade and gives foreign investors a chance to interact with African economies by offering a more economical and effective transportation infrastructure. By diversifying their alliances, African countries may be able to lessen their dependency on China and develop more amicable and advantageous relationships with other countries throughout the world. It is important to recognize that confronting China's sway over Africa will not be a simple undertaking. China has made significant economic and political investments throughout the continent and has built close relationships with many African countries. Overcoming this influence will require concerted efforts from African governments, international partners, and regional organizations. Do you think China will soon lose its place in Africa just as France has? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do not forget to like this video and subscribe to the New Tourist channel. Turn on notifications too so you get notified whenever we upload videos like this. Thanks for watching and see you in our next video.